Welcome to this Sketchup crash course, and as you're going to find out, this is quite an easy software to learn and you're going to enjoy using it. So jumping straight in, once you open Sketchup, you find that you have this window that asks you to choose a template that you're going to use. And in this case, what you are doing at this point is choosing the units that you're going to be working in, that is millimeters, inches, meters, whatever you're comfortable with. For now, I'm going to go with the millimeters template. And this is what we have. Once you open SketchUp, you find that there is a lot of tools around which we are going to get into, and you have this called a default tray. So most importantly, these are the tools you're going to be using most on the left, and I'm going to go through how each of those works. So first of all, click on this and then press right click and choose delete, erase, and now we have a clean window. Now the first tool I want to look at is the rectangle tool, and what that does, once you click on it and click anywhere within this window, it's going to prompt you to drag out a rectangle as the tool suggests. So you drag out and then click for the second time, and then you have your rectangle right there. Now, you might have noticed that I'm orbiting around the window, and to do that, I do that by pressing the middle mouse button. So once you click and hold the middle mouse button, you find that you're able to orbit around your scene. Another way you can do that is by looking to your left in this tool panel. You're going to find this tool called the orbit tool, and that will enable you to rotate around your scene. And then to zoom in and out, using that scroll bar. With the scroll bar, you're able to zoom in and out. So if you switch back to our selection tool, and notice that whichever tool you hover over in the tool panel here, there is a note that tells you what that tool does. For example, we have this circle, and the note says draw circles from the center point to radius. So if I click on that and zoom out and I click there, I'm able to drag out a circle, a circular plane like that. Now, another thing that you have to keep in mind is that once you're using these tools that draw these planes, you can determine how big that plane is going to be using the units that, as you remember, we chose a template for which we are comfortable with the units. So once you choose one of these tools, you're going to have to click and then attempt to drag out that shape. And once you're dragging out that shape, notice at the bottom corner on my left or on your right, depending on the version of SketchUp you have, you're able to type a length and width for this rectangle. So I'm going to type 2 meters, comma 4 meters. So now I know that this rectangle has a length of 4 meters by a width of 4 meters by a length of 2 meters. So this is an accurately drawn plane. Now another tool I want to look at is this. Don't mind that I'm showing you these tools basing on how frequently you're going to be using them. So that's why it seems like I'm deciding randomly which tool to show you next. Yeah, but don't mind, we're going to go through all these tools and you'll be able to know what each of these does. So this is called the push-pull tool. Once I click on this tool and hover over any of these planes that we created, notice that they get highlighted. So once I hover over this plane and click and move my mouse, you notice now I can start pulling out a form, and it becomes now a 3-dimensional form. So whilst pulling this out, I can type a value, let's say 6 meters, on my keyboard and hit the enter key, and now we have this cuboid that is 6 meters high. Yeah. So again, to orbit around the scene, I'm holding the middle mouse button and holding on while I move the mouse around, and that gives us the ability to move around our scene. Now, as I suggested before, this is going to be a crash course showing you the most important, the things that I wish I knew while I was learning this. Yeah, so it's going to be like a shortcut to getting you at speed with how to use this software. So now, as you know, a cuboid is made of faces, edges, and vertices. Yeah, this is a face, this is a face, this is an edge, this is an edge. So you're able to select these faces and edges in many ways. The first way is by, if you wanted to select multiple faces, you click on this face, hold shift, and then click on the other face you want to select, and now we have 2 faces selected. And then so you can go on and select this whole cuboid by holding shift while adding multiple faces to the selection. And another thing you can do, you can also unselect a face by holding shift and clicking on that face. So depending on whether it's selected or not, clicking onto a face while holding shift adds or subtracts to the selection. Now that's how you select. That's true also with the edges. You can decide to select this edge, this edge, this edge, and this edge, and then you have those edges selected. Now there is also other ways of selecting this cube. Imagine you had an object that had like 30 faces. You wouldn't really go on clicking on each face. That would be time wasting. So you can also select objects by what I would like to call the rubber band selecting. So to do that, you left click on your mouse and drag out a selection over the object that you want to select, and now as you can see, this whole cuboid is selected. and to deselect it, you just have to click in empty space, and now you have it deselected. Another important thing to be aware of, it's always good practice that when you create an object, you make sure you group it into one. Yeah. So what I mean by that is that if I selected these faces of this cuboid and right clicked and chose make group, now what happens is that to select this object, I just have to click once and then I have it as a group. I've selected all the faces at once. So it's with time you're going to see the importance of having to group objects. And then if you want to edit this object, you have to edit it within the group. And what I mean by that, the only way you can edit this is by right clicking and choosing edit group, and then now you're in the group. As you can see, we have these bounding edges that are enclosing our object. Yeah. Now we can maybe choose our push pull tool again, and then maybe increase the length of this object, and now we have it bigger. Or we can get our rectangle tool and draw a face on top of this face. As you're seeing, I'm being prompted with a note that says right now that pencil is pointing to a face, which is good. So I'm drawing a face on a face, and then I can do that, choose my push pull tool and pull that out. So as you can see, you can draw as many faces as you want. Select, choose the push pull tool, and then pull out that selection. And after that, you just have to click in empty space to close the group. So now we have that object right there. Now another thing we're going to look at right now is something called components. Now a component in SketchUp is an object that has that is a duplicate of another. But to do that, let me first go through this tool called the move tool. So once you click on this move tool and you have an object selected, you can click on any of these corners. As you notice, whilst you move around your mouse, the software prompts you to click on one of those corners. So if I clicked on this corner and I moved my mouse, notice that now that object begins to move within the scene. But at this point I have no control towards what axis it's moving. And to choose the axis I want to move this object along, I'll press one of the arrow keys on my keyboard. So if I pressed the left arrow key, you notice now it has locked that motion onto that green axis. Yeah. And once I press the right arrow key, now it's locking it towards the red axis. And once I press the up arrow key, it's locking it right towards that blue axis. So you don't have to cram these arrow keys and what axis is axis they lock the object onto, but once you forget, you just have to try each of those, and with time you will know which axes work for, which arrows work for at axis. So again, I've clicked this corner, locked it along the green axis by using my arrow key, and then I'm going to type 2000, and that means I've moved this object by 2000 units of its original point. Now let's get this plane we drew, and rubber band select the whole plane, right click and choose group. Now we have this grouped. We can move it closer to this object by choosing this move tool. Now we also have the tool called the scale tool, which is right here, and what that does, as the name suggests, once you click on it, you see these highlighted points that you can use to stretch out that plane. And now we have created some kind of flow surface. Yeah. Now let's go on and choose this object that we drew. The last thing in this the last thing we're going to look at is what I had talked about, the components. Now a component, as I said, can be got by right clicking and choosing make component. Don't mind these, and then just choose create. Now this is a component. If we move a copy of this, and to do that, to move a copy of an object, you go back to your move tool, click on any point of that object and start moving. Let's lock this to the red axis by hitting the right arrow key, and then press your control key, and what that does, it creates a copy of that exact object, and then you can click to release. Now you have two objects that are quite similar, and once you right click and choose edit component and you attempt to edit this object, you will find that also the other object edits along, because it's a component of this. So what a component means is that these two objects are sort of linked, that whatever you do to this object also happens to this. So let's enter this component by right clicking and choose edit component, choose any surface, and then in your default tray scroll down until you find a tab called the materials tab, and there you can choose the colors that you want to apply to your faces. So as you can see, this is also how you can shade your model. And since this is a component, also the other object around is accordingly changing to match the component that we created. Yeah. So that was it for this first video, and those are the tools, those are the ideas that you're going to be using most while using this software. So if you have to rewatch this video, please rewatch it, because what we have talked about in this one is the most important aspect about SketchUp. It from here on it just gets easier once you've mastered these simple concepts that we have put through in this one. Then the future is bright. See you in the next one.